You are heading for the gayest and most beautiful resort area in the world, the French Riviera. Cannes, once but a small fishing village, has become a mecca for the fashionable holiday seeker. And every year, it attracts increasingly larger crowds from all over the continent and from America. There's lots of fun and sun waiting for you at Cannes.
Cannes is sublime and ridiculous. It's poetry and prose. It's the highest art and the hucksterism.
This is a glamorous, spectacular festival, full of joie de vivre, but also full of discord and disharmony.
Those who haven't been, they just know it's the greatest film festival in the world, but they don't really get it. It's really, really hard to describe what happens here.
It's frenetic, it's noisy, it's beautiful, it's intoxicating. And that's before you've even started drinking the rosé.
Every year it's different. Of course, in the history of the festival, everything is interesting because the story of Cannes is the story of cinema. Film festivals support the most important and the best and the most beautiful invention of Louis Lumière, which is a screening room, a light there and an image there. At a time, at the end of the 19th century, of course, he had some discussions with Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison didn't believe in a big screen. He wanted personal spectators. And Lumière said, no. It's better to be all together and to watch a film in a big screen to share emotions. Which proves that the discussion we are having now about the future of cinema, the new habits of people to go or not to go to cinema, the platforms and Netflix and so on, started years ago, and they are still going on. So I'm sure that with the streamers now, cinema will survive and will find out how to survive.
In 1932, the Italians launched the Venice Film Festival, and it was clear from the start that it was both culturally and politically motivated. As the years went on, it became more and more political because the fascists were taking control in both Italy and Germany. In fact, by the time we get to 1938, the fascists are actually choosing what films will now win the prizes at the Venice Film Festival, and this totally outraged the French and other Europeans.
As Venice was in the hands of Mussolini and Joseph Goebbels, so in the dark face of Europe at that time, it was nice to imagine that France and the United States and England wanted to have another festival, the Free World Festival.
The decision was taken to hold the festival outside Paris, and the choice was between Biarritz and Cannes. And I think ultimately it came down to which of the municipalités was prepared to cough up the most money to help support it. And Cannes won the day. Having the festival there would obviously bring lots of income, lots of visitors to Cannes. So it was from the start not just about the festival. There was a tourist agenda, if you like, behind the decision.
Tourism is 50% of the revenues of the city of Cannes. It concerns something like 12,000 people working for the Palais, 1 billion euro in terms of revenues, also 120 hotels, 500 restaurants, 150 taxi drivers. So it's a city constructed, built for tourism.
It's a thrill to come here, and landing at Nice, you land over the water, it's an amazing airport, and then you come here and it's this beautiful city by the glistening ocean. It's absolutely gorgeous. The central point for so many years is the Carlton, because that's a historical central point, and it's the most iconic of the buildings on the front.
The hotel was built in 1908 for the first time, and this place became straight away the iconic destination to visit. We are the place where people like to be, is the place where people want to be seen, because they know they can always meet somebody that is maybe changing their history and their production. But Cannes is not only a film festival, it's a cultural event, it's a city that becomes synonymous of film and the beauty of this industry.
I remember my first experience of Cannes very, very well. I'd been to Berlin. Berlin was my first film festival, but I was aware when I arrived in Cannes that this was quite different. I mean, walking down the Croisette, you see the whole circus of Cannes, and it is a circus. But still the beating heart is the cinema.
The first years I came to Cannes, it is about the films, but it's a lot about the impact you have when you look at the city, when you see what cinema really may turn a city into. But it takes a few years to find your way around Cannes.
Cannes is mysterious. When you come here for the first time, you don't know how it works, you don't know how to get tickets, you don't know where the parties are, etc. So you feel an outsider pressing your nose against the glass, looking into this glamorous world, and you're sort of aching to get in there, but it's really hard to get in there because there are tens of thousands of film people here. But you have to kind of go with what you can get and see what happens.
I think when you initially arrive in Cannes as a neophyte, it's like going to Glastonbury the first time. It's like going to a huge festival and you really don't know how to navigate it. And there are thousands of people here. And it is a bit like Glastonbury because there are curated stages, i.e. cinemas showing movies, being curated with taste. And it's very strong in Cannes. The purity still today of the love of cinema.
I suppose there is a particular French enthusiasm that kind of permeates the atmosphere in terms of the reverence for cinema. The sort of reverence for the theatrical experience. I also find one of the critical things about it is for filmmakers to be with each other. They can have that kind of exchange of ideas and talk about each other's work is pretty extraordinary.
There are so many people here in this city who live the life of a movie and who contribute to the life of a movie, whether they be executives, journalists, or they be the professionals who make and distribute movies. It's hard to imagine a place where you can access so much expertise and so much perspective, and also so much ridiculousness sometimes, quite honestly.
One of the great things about Cannes, despite everything, is that it is, when it comes down to it, is Hollywood-proof. I mean, you arrive in Cannes, you go down the Croisette, and the place is completely surrounded and plastered with Hollywood posters and hoardings and stuff. But they can't buy or bully their way into the competition, nor can they bully their way to win. And that's the great thing. It's about world cinema.
At the beginning of Cannes, in the late 40s and beginning of the 50s, the Palme d'Or didn't exist. They had like 7 or 8 Grand Prix. But finally, it came out in 1955. And it was kind of a great invention, la Palme d'Or. Like the yellow jersey for the Tour de France. And la Palme d'Or means a lot today. It's a help. There is no money. There is nothing like that. It's just a recognition of a jury, even if, of course, you can disagree with the judgment of a jury. If you take the list, it's always great films.
It's usually important that if you go into the competition that it's deemed to be okay, because that's judged as a measure of the film's worth. And if you do be lucky enough to win something, that again is massively important, because it means a lot more people will see it, and a lot more people will take it seriously. It validates the work you've done.
Le festival, c'est très très important pour le futur du cinéma.
Ben, c'est quand même assez joyeux, quoi. Il y a l'idée d'une fête et de consécration d'une œuvre. Évidemment qu'il faut toujours très occupé. On sait que quand le matin on va pour la journée de présentation du film, c'est une longue journée et à la fois c'est très enthousiasmant parce que il y a toujours l'idée qu'on a de la chance d'être là, d'être en sélection.
Winning the Palme d'Or to this day has still been my single, absolutely positively greatest achievement of all the trophies that I have won. It's the one that has the biggest place of honor. My joke about the Palme d'Or is the only thing more prestigious than the list of directors who have won the Palme d'Or or the list of directors who haven't.
Well, the jury has taken the exceptional step.
Je ne savais pas du tout le prix qu'on allait avoir et il y a eu l'annonce ensuite, Spielberg qui sur scène énonce nos 3 prénoms. Donc au début, j'ai pas très bien compris qu'on faisait partie aussi du prix. Et puis ensuite, Adèle et moi sommes montés et là, c'était complètement fou. On voit la scène devient floue, on ne sait plus trop où on est. Et c'était tellement miraculeux d'avoir le prix et d'être associé au Cap des Lettres Fichiches. Parce que de l'avoir nous aussi, les actrices, c'était vraiment une récompense extraordinaire.
It's a huge achievement to get into this festival, obviously, to be actually selected, because the competition is so incredibly fierce and everyone wants to be a part of this festival, but it's also just the exposure that you get from this festival. You become very special almost overnight, and everyone's fighting to be your friend, and I think it's a game changer and career changer for a lot of filmmakers.
Cannes can break a film, yes, absolutely, can make it happen. It's unbelievable, the amount of attention. But, you know, I remember my earliest years in the film business that we never got into Cannes. Very important. My first film was Salvador, and we could not get it in the festival. Gilles Jacob, the chief priest of Cannes at that time, felt that it was too violent and turned it down. Then again, we needed their help on Natural Born Killers in 1994, was deemed again. He called me and he said it's too violent for them. This was the year they had Pulp Fiction, but it doesn't matter, you know. It was bad luck for the films because they really did need the break. The biggest break we needed was on U-Turn, which came shortly thereafter. U-Turn was a Sean Penn film, done low budget and independent. We desperately needed some attention, so we sent it to Cannes. And again, Mr. Jacob turned it down. So, you know, you give up after a while. Thierry Fre, who took over from him, thank God, had a different mindset.
The job is not to say it is a good film, it is not a good film, or I like it, I don't like it. My job as for the head of the selection process is to say, does this film have to go to Cannes or not? Is it convenient to screen this film to Cannes or not? That's why there is films I can pick up which I don't like, and there is film I love which I don't pick. However, we can sometimes lose our taste. We can make mistakes.
When you show a film at the Cannes Film Festival, you know that a lot of the audience, you know, it has been enriched by cinema. A lot of those people in the dark have seen many different films. So that's useful. I mean, it's, you know, there are many problems of showing films here because Cannes is a kind of altarpiece on which you can slaughter something or venerate something. You know, the world's press is here. That's really important for a film. You know, many people can make films with their phone now, but the danger is you make a film, even a good one, and nobody sees it. If you bring a film to Cannes, people will see it. And that's fantastic. That's the first requirement. You know, the second requirement is that people will like it, and that doesn't necessarily happen.
Maurice Pialat pour Sous le soleil de Satan.
Si vous ne m'aimez pas, je peux vous dire que je ne vous aime pas non plus.
We had quite a lot of controversies. The tradition was to boo films. And it happened a lot of time. And a lot of time for great films. La Dolce Vita was booed. A lot of film was booed. I remember some screenings which were a big catastrophe. The screening of Irreversible, midnight screening in competition, very violent film. A lot of people had problem in watching that film. The press is tough in Cannes. The press is the most wonderful group of people, connoisseurs of what cinema is. But they are also sometimes very tough. And they can hurt films, filmmakers, because the reception is so bad that the film is dead. Because Cannes is this. A film at 8:30 in the morning, first screening, the film is alive, and then sometimes the film is dead 2 hours later.
Every single sentence that has been in print has been to character assassinate me, to degrade me, to undermine my film, and to criticize me in every way possible. I wish I never made The Brown Bunny. It ruined my life for the past 3 years. It ruined my body. I'm an out-of-shape, old man. I've lost a lot of my hair. I have gray hairs now. My body looks terrible. I lived in a hotel out of a suitcase for 3 years to make the film. My whole life fell apart. So yes, it was nice being in the cinema last night, being booed for 2 hours. Yes, it was nice.
People are not shy about letting you know about your film at Cannes, you know. When you're there in a competition, you're just doing loads of press, you don't know how they're going to react, you know, it's completely nerve-wracking. I've been on screenings of other people's films where the people have booed, and I'm like, oh my God, you know. So I think you're always kind of like, oh my God, so if the seats go up or there's a kind of lots of coughs and lots of noises, then you know it's not going well. So it's kind of intimidating, I've got to say.
The emotions here are really high. The critics, they're busy. They have a lot to cover. There's a lot of pressure, you know, on what's going to come out. And my fear about being here sometimes is that when I came here for the first time, there was a lot of reviews, and I think there was one review that was very, 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 very vicious. And that's the only review I remember. It sort of, you know, took away all the other reviews. They were really great. And so I think there's something about Cannes, you know, that everything is just so heightened.
I wouldn't say it's necessarily a harsh audience. I would say it's a passionate audience. And you want that. You know, as a filmmaker, you want a passionate audience. And I've been in screenings where people have been very vocal about not liking films and felt for the filmmakers. And I remember walking up the red carpet with my beloved Jim Jarmusch when we were presenting Broken Flowers. And he was uncharacteristically a little jittery. And I said, Jim, what's going on? And he said, well, I just can't stop remembering that the last time I was here with Dead Man. And I also want to remind us, Dead Man is a classic, and always was. But as the credits were just about to roll, somebody called down from the balcony, Jim, it's shit.
We did a French film, a period film, called The King's Whore. The movie was received almost throughout in silence. In fact, halfway through the film, what we thought was people applauding the film was in fact the noise of the seats going up as people exited. We never recovered with that film. It was a disaster. And having had the big screening that we'd worked our way up to, there was no way we couldn't rescue it. It never really opened anywhere else. Yeah, it's a crapshoot, it really is. And it can go disastrously wrong. You know, if it's high risk, it's also high reward, because if you're in one of the official screenings and your film is well liked, it's amazing. You know, I've been at those with all the actors and everything when they applaud for 15 minutes. It was ridiculous, but it's great.
There is a sort of tidal wave here, a tsunami, you can even say. A certain film gets hot, you can tell that they build momentum out of that screening. And the applause, it does go on, and your hands hurt. It's after 10 minutes, 15 minutes of doing this, you know, it's quite something. It's orchestrated, choreographed, you could say, but it's lovely. It's all in the love of film.
War natürlich irrsinnig aufgeregt und als es dann losging mit dem Applaus, habe ich mir gedacht, na schön, gut, das hat den Leuten gefallen und dann hörte das überhaupt nicht auf. Es musste irgendwann mal aufhören. Wir haben uns schon so zugeraunt, was machen wir, sollen wir einfach gehen, die hören nicht mehr auf. Die haben eine halbe Stunde geklatscht. Wir wussten einfach, wir waren verzweifelt, wirklich. Wir wussten am Schluss überhaupt nicht mehr, was wir machen sollten, weil wir hatten uns so oft verbeugt. Aber Gilles hat immer nur so Zeichen gegeben, ihr bleibt da, ihr bleibt da, ihr bleibt da. Und dann hörte das einfach nicht auf. Und es ist natürlich was ganz Herrliches, aber wenn sowas Herrliches irgendwie dann so wird, dass man nicht mehr weiß, ist das jetzt eine ganz besondere Art von Tortur oder was ist das?
I've had some brilliant times when you've went and it's your first screening and you're in that huge theatre, I think it's 2,000 people or something. Especially the last film I did, you were never really here. I mean, it was such a great feeling after the movie and that movie wasn't even finished for Cannes. It was like we were still cutting that movie, you know, had storyboards in it 2 weeks before Cannes. So that one was really special for me. That was really special because it was at that point I felt very moved by it and just this amazing response.
La première fois que j'ai eu réellement un film en compétition avec un grand rôle, je me souviens que c'était un festival cette année-là qui était un peu morose. Enfin, il y avait quelque chose d'assez triste, il pleuvait tout le temps, il faisait pas très beau. Et tout le monde attendait quand même que quelque chose réveille le festival, mais bon, c'était la fin approchait et puis moi je n'avais évidemment aucune conscience de ce que le film allait provoquer et surtout que je n'ai pas vu le film. Donc je vais découvrir un film au Festival de Cannes que je n'ai pas vu. Donc avec la peur au ventre, très peur. Et on a regardé le film devant tout le monde. Et là, tout d'un coup, c'est un raz-de-marée. C'est-à-dire que les réseaux sociaux sont enflammés, tout le monde parle du film comme de la Palme d'Or. C'était vraiment absolument incroyable. Tout le monde ne parlait plus que de ce film. Sur la Croisette, on ne parlait que de ce film.
If there's a great movie that plays in the Palais down there, that buzz stretches out of the Palais down the steps and out onto the Croisette and out into the wider world. And those are the best Cannes. They need a great movie. You see them on the biggest screen in Europe, the first person to see them, and you are witnessing history, you're witnessing a masterpiece. And Cannes is the place for masterpieces. And I think you sort of step on the shoulders of film history here. It's the energy and the buzz brings back all that history. And you step on the shoulders of all the great films that have won here. You look at that list and you think, wow, it's so diverse and so full of the great names of cinema.
One of the things that's so wonderful about Cannes is all the world film press from the planet Earth. They're all here. And I'm down with that. I am not an American filmmaker. I make movies for the planet Earth. And Cannes is the place that represents that. Woo!
Well, you used it and still do use it to launch films. You put major films into the Cannes Film Festival because, you know, you've got 4,000 accredited press. You know, you can do a junket here and the press are paying their own way to be in Cannes. You do a junket at the Four Seasons in Los Angeles, you're paying for the press. You know, so the impact here is global.
It's intense, but I relish the opportunity to hear from journalists and to have conversations with journalists. So, yeah, I mean, it is hard work, and it's repetitive very often. But I've been able to say that I am interested in every film I've been able to present here. I'm not an actor in that sense. I wouldn't be able to kind of put a gloss on something I don't feel so confident about around 500 times over 3 days.
In the end, the thing that drives us is that it's a job to be done. It comes with the territory. You know, you go out and you have to have your photo taken and smile and do all the rest of it. In many ways, it's a pain. In many ways, it's boring. It's repetitious. It's not interesting. It's not stimulating. But it's a job to be done because it's part and parcel. Far easier and more stimulating, by way of the job to be done, is sitting talking to journalist about the film, although, of course, one inevitably gets sick to death of saying the same thing over and over again. So you then start to put in a bit of, even without trying, effort to vary what you say. And the danger of that is that if you vary too much the way you talk about your work, you start to talk bullshit.
If you've got a really good PR, it really does matter. You learn a lot about the value of Cannes and how you should handle it. But you've got to really be sure of the film. And also, taking the wrong actors or the wrong directors can be a disaster if they're not disciplined, because otherwise it goes bonkers.
I really wanted to be a Jew, and then I found out that I was really a Nazi, which also gave me some pleasure. So I'm kind of a, yeah, what can I say? I understand Hitler.
Of course, press doesn't always go according to plan. That's what's fun about it. I mean, obviously the most famous case of this in Cannes is Lars von Trier's press conference. It just went terribly, terribly wrong and put his foot in it more and more, and it was just made worse and worse and worse the more he kept talking about it.
I understand much about him, and I sympathize with him a little bit, yes. But come on, I'm not for the Second World War, and I'm not against Jews. I am, of course, very much for Jews. No, not too much, because Israel is a pain in the ass. But still...
I like Lars von Trier films. I can't even tell you which press conference it was for, because that became the headline, is Lars von Trier a Nazi? Is still plaguing him to this day, because you really are on the world's stage.
It's got to be remembered that Cannes has the biggest number of media, accredited media, of any annual event. There is nothing that rivals it, and the only events that compare with Cannes would be the Olympics and the FIFA World Cup, and they're only every 4 years. Cannes is every year, and over 4,000 media will be in Cannes. That's TV, radio, print, the bloggers now, TikTok, you name it, they're all in Cannes to cover it. In fact, during the festival itself, there will be numerous daily publications just for the festivals. I used to edit one of those, and you're just churning out news 24/7 right through the festival to the end.
C'est le plus grand festival du film dans le monde. En fait, Getty a sur place à Cannes 67 personnes. C'est une très grosse opération pour Getty. Cannes est considéré comme une opération majeure, comme les Oscars ou les Jeux Olympiques. Donc voilà, nous avons une très grosse équipe sur place. Pour nous, évidemment, le plus important, ce sont les marches. C'est le plus beau tapis rouge du monde. Et nous avons donc un bureau sur Cannes avec beaucoup d'éditeurs qui reçoivent nos photos et qui les traitent en live. Donc il faut compter à peu près entre le moment où la photo est faite et le moment où elle est mise sur le site. Il faut compter à peu près 60 secondes. Donc c'est très rapide.
The value that Cannes offers you really became abundantly clear to me when I made Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and we were on the red carpet and the stories reached all over the world before the movie was even done showing. People knew, you know, how fabulous it seemed like it was going to be just based on our red carpet pictures. And it was just astounding how quickly those stories carried.
Overall, Cannes is very good news because the world is there focusing its attention on the work. But there are 1,000 other things going on. Others, I mean, apart from anything else, and I don't think this is true of the Venice Festival or Berlin. I mean, there's a large proportion of people who are just showing off, basically. You know, and that's putting it politely.
One of the things that made Cannes stand out from the other festivals from the very start was the stunts. One of the most famous ones from those early days was for the film The Leopard, which went on to win the Palme d'Or that year in 1963. And as part of the stunt, they brought the actress and director onto the beach with the photographers and brought down, it was actually a cheetah, to sit on the beach with them. And it appears the actress seemed to think it was just a cat and started kissing it. And the director actually had to lean over to her and say, I really wouldn't do that. That is a cheetah. And that same year, the opening film of the festival was Hitchcock's The Birds. And what are you going to do for a stunt with the birds? Obviously, the easiest thing is get some pigeons, put them in some baskets, open them up. And that's what Hitchcock did alongside Tippi Hedren, his leading lady. And that started this wonderful world of Cannes and stunts.
You can have stunts on the croisette, and it might be just the well-known actor or actress just on the croisette attracting loads of photographers. It might be just that. It might be, I certainly remember when they had an inflatable Arnold in the bay, and it was massive, but somebody shot it with a rifle. So it just went, and that wasn't very good publicity.
America has a love affair with Cannes. And I think sometimes that can be because America loves spectacle. And, you know, something like the tanks of Expendables 3 with Stallone and Schwarzenegger. I mean, the film wasn't showing in Cannes. It's a promo stunt. I would never expect this at any other festival, but it's just part of that Cannes ecosystem of stars and silliness.
It stopped the whole festival. I mean, it was extraordinary, and of course everybody enjoys it. But, I mean, that is slightly ridiculous these days, and it does cost a fortune. I have no idea how much that cost. I mean, it's part of the budget of the movie. Film didn't match the marketing, which is often the case in Cannes.
For the carnival part, there's nothing like Cannes. It's just a chance to put a smile on people's face and, you know, do something unique, do a little stunt to kind of kick the festival off, and it's become a tradition for us at DreamWorks.
Jeffrey Katzenberg, who was the head of animation at DreamWorks, came up with the idea of doing these huge PR stunts to maximize what he'd like to call getting more bang for the buck out of the landscape of Cannes. There was a very funny PR stunt for Shark Tale with an inflatable shark boat, like a banana boat, but shaped like a shark, with Will Smith, Angelina Jolie, and Jack Black. And the moment was made for us by Jack Black diving off the shark into the water and the press all getting that shot, which wasn't discussed and wasn't rehearsed. He took the initiative and dived and made a complete fool of himself in a glorious way. And we were downloaded by 2,400 newspapers worldwide within 24 hours. That just for me was great to be able to answer our critics who said, it's a waste of time, it's a waste of money, nobody's going to pay attention, why bother, you're just showing off. Well, we're in show business.
There are lots of things going on in Cannes which aren't just to do with the main competition or anything else. I mean, apart from anything else, it's a massive market. So the place is crawling with people who are hustling.
Cannes provides this unique, weird mix of like the Oscars and a kind of trade fair. So you hurl your film into that world of glamour and elevation and sophistication, but also the tawdry aspect of people asking, will this make me a buck?
Cannes has always been a place where art and commerce collide, and where we have these extraordinary artistic experiences of our movies showing and getting some kind of recognition. And then at the same time, I'll never forget my first experience of the Cannes market and walking through that bunker and seeing just trade stall after trade stall of, you know, people selling movies the same way they would sell nail polish.
There is no business without the art, and there is no art without the business. So coming here, we look for projects that are enjoyable and fun and entertaining, and we'll find a good audience, but also can make the dollars work. You know, the market here is extremely important to our business. It's the biggest one. The most deals get done in Cannes as well, because the buyers come out in force, the sales agents bring their best and brightest packages, and everybody's looking to go home with a lot of new content.
Came out here, my film is called The Dating Game.
It's called In a Calm. It's a supernatural love story across the afterlife.
It's a post-apocalyptic action drama.
It's a feature film about a young woman we want to live in Corsica. It's a romantic comedy. Girl breaks up with her fiance, meets a bunch of losers, and then meets the right guy at the end.
I would say it's a mixture of sci-fi and martial arts.
It's a social comedy.
So it's a supernatural thriller. It's all sorts of genres combined.
cinema is in big danger, not festivals, cinema. I'm not saying he's going to die, not at all. But when television was born in the 50s, or when then video or internet arrived, it was always some difficult moment for cinema. Now it's quite a problem. We have streamers, we have a lot of discussion, question about the future of cinema. So it's difficult. Does a film need to go to the big screen? No, today no. But for me, I think that a film becomes a film on the big screen.
We were actually at the sharp end of that controversy, and it was a very controversial moment, and I was grateful that we were there, because 2017, we were here with Okja, with Bong Joon-ho, and Netflix was presenting that film, and also Noah Baumbach's The Meyerowitz Stories. There were two Netflix films in competition. And Pedro Almodovar, now my beloved comrade, was the president of the jury, and took a very vocal and totally laudable stance about the fact that Netflix films were in competition in the greatest film festival devoted to big screen cinema in the world. And there was a big hoo-ha about it. And it was a debate. And I'm very glad, for the sake of that debate, I'm very glad that the films that were at that sharp end were films that were as good as Okja and the Meyerowitz Stories.
Cannes doesn't bow to Hollywood, it doesn't bow to streamers or Netflix. It digs itself into the sand, for good or for ill. It's a bunker there, and that protects cinema, and it protects the communal experience of watching movies. There's something very unromantic about the streaming experience. They don't have the history, they don't have the glamour, they don't have the texture of the stories that are being told here at the film festival. And that's what Cannes has. It has romance, and the romance of going to the movies, the actual physical immersion in the story of movies and around movies.
Parties have always been a big part of Cannes. There were a lot of amazing parties, particularly in that sort of 1990s, early 2000s period. The parties were always legendary. Trying to get tickets to parties was just the most competitive thing, trying to make sure that you got into the hot parties. And yeah, they were incredible.
There have been some major parties over the years. I think back to The Fifth Element, where they built a massive structure on the old port for the party in the evening. Moulin Rouge, where you had the Can-Can girls on the red carpet, and then everybody after the screening went to a Moulin Rouge. They had rebuilt the Moulin Rouge in Cannes for the party. And in many ways, the parties became as competitive as the films in competition. And one of the most famous is Train Spotting, which people ended up in pools and houses and villas all over town.
Been tipped as the hottest party of the festival. How do you feel about that?
It would be much nicer if it was the hottest film of the festival, but yeah, no, I'll settle for a party. Yeah, that'll be fun. I think the party will get the Palme d'Or.
That was a bit of a legendary party back in the day. I kind of talked about for years as one of the most exciting parties that Cannes had ever had. It was before the days where VIP lounges or, behind closed doors things were a big part of parties. It was much more, you were just mingling with all the stars and, everyone was there, and there was a huge dance floor and there was lots of drug taking and drinking. It was just fantastic. One of those parties where you stayed out until all hours of the morning.
Back in those days, there was a lot more money for things like parties. So the villa parties, the films would have their parties in a big villa. And there was always the MTV party, which was great. So just a bit more, they'd throw a bit more money at them, I think. Now, you still get the glitzy parties, but it tends to be along the beachfront. So, you'll see them all at the same venues.
There's still a lot of fashion parties because there's all sorts of fashion brands down here holding elite super parties and dinners. Di Guisogno, one of the big jewellery brands, Vanity Fair parties with beautifully dressed stars. And of course AMFAR, which takes place out at the glamorous Hotel de Cap to raise money for AIDS. You've got all the top models in the world, and it is fabulous because it's really put the focus on fashion.
It is the hottest tickets. The tickets are expensive, but it's the hottest ticket. It is the most glamorous event outside of the festival itself. So it's a sort of add-on. It's a mix now of fashion, film and celebrities.
Let's drop in at Cannes, where the film festival is being held. Those who were lucky enough to be there got a good view of the stars arriving and could make a mental note of what their favorites were wearing.
Every 5 years, the newspaper in France, they say, is it still something good to be dressed to go to the red carpet? And we say, yes, it's still good to be dressed to watch a film. And we go up to the red carpet to watch a film. The Palais des Festivals is like a church. You can't go there as a usual place, especially because that makes this moment unforgettable. I am at the top of the red carpet, and it's wonderful how you can see people, and you think that they are artists. No, they are only simple festival goers, but they are exactly like young stars. So they all respect the tradition of Cannes, and there is a lot of joy in the red carpet.
Really, there are two parallel festivals that you have going on here, one devoted to film and one which you could say is devoted to fashion. Fashion today plays a huge role in Cannes, and so many of the fashion brands come down to Cannes and they set up shop in the Martinez Hotel, which we're standing next to, and there you can go in if you're a celeb or a model or you're a wannabe actress, and you pick and choose some of these dresses to wear for the night, and of course that works wonders for the fashion brands, because what amazing PR, right, to have your stars on the red carpet in Cannes. It's probably the highest profile event of the year. And it's definitely very theatrical. What you're seeing in a way resembles costume for film or even theatre. You look at some of the volume, the size of some of the dresses. So I think fashion is playing an ever more prominent role. And Cannes wouldn't be Cannes without those red carpet moments. It's what imprints it into the imaginations of people all over the world.
I'm old enough to remember a time when it didn't feel like the red carpet anywhere really meant much. I mean, in the first years when I was coming here, you didn't dream of being lent clothes. You just, bought a dress in a second-hand shop and came, or borrowed your mother's dress or something. But I remember noticing the growth of the relationship between fashion houses. I suppose it also relates very much, more recently, to the growth of social media. The whole forum of the red carpet has become a real thing. It's a huge part of it.
Of course, the glam, it's great. It's like you feel sometimes it was the 1950s and Liz Taylor, that's a side of Cannes is still like that. So yeah, it's funny to wear the nice dresses and stuff, but it's a pain in the ass as well. Because I'm a film director, not an actress. Like my feet were killing me, and Nicole Kidman, and I just hated high heels. I didn't want to wear high heels ever again. And we were just taking ballet shoes with us and just taking them off once we get in and stuff like that.
Screen ran a story about the flat shoes on the red carpet, and it just blew up. Within days, like 3,000 outlets had run this story that women are not allowed to wear flat shoes in Cannes. And, we hear about the men being turned away if they don't like the cut of your tux. It's all a bit ridiculous. But, yeah, just the fact in this century that people are requiring women to wear a heel, that's ridiculous, and we need to call them out.
It's a festival that loves its regulations. I mean, coming to Cannes is the most exciting way to learn new words for no in French. And I've heard no a bunch of times at this festival. And many of them having to do with clothes on the red carpet. Women that are forced to wear heels and men that are forced to come in formal attire. One of my worst incidents was the first year that I got here. I walk up to the red carpet, suited up. I had the tie, I most of it, but my shoes were that weird that they said, yeah, they look too much like baskets, which is French for sneakers, and they sent me right off the red carpet. I never got to see the film. I still haven't seen it.
I am in charge of the festival. So, for example, in the red carpet, we take care of the red carpet. It's forbidden, for example, now to make a selfie. First, it is dangerous. Second, we lose a lot of time in waiting for people that are like that. And third, it's vulgar. And it was a moment of the 21st century, because even now, it's not anymore the things people want to do.
I kind of like that they are a bit strict on the red carpet, even if you're being told no selfies. But I also think it was a sense of, is Cannes living in the past? So I think there is a role to evolve with the times to reflect modern society and more seriously in representation of people of color, of different parts of the world, of female filmmakers. Yeah, Cannes should be leading some of those dialogue.
On these steps today stand 82 women, representing the number of female directors who have climbed these stairs since the first edition of the Cannes Film Festival in 1946. In the same period, 1,688 male directors have climbed these very same stairs.
I think looking even more into having more female filmmakers in the program, non-binary filmmakers, just opening up to a little bit more than the usual suspects would be hugely helpful to not just to the festival, but to audiences around the world, because if people look up to anyone, it is this festival, so it would be just nice to see a little bit more diverse work.
We demand that our workplaces are diverse and equitable so they can best reflect the world in which we actually live. A world that allows all of us, in front and behind the cameras, all of us to thrive shoulder to shoulder with our male colleagues.
Part of the press asked me why Cannes is always politic. I used to give two answers. First is that it's not the festival which is very political, it's the artist. Artists are really involved in their world, they are living in the world. And we had a lot of political moment in Cannes. And if there is one place in the world to do that, it's the Palais Festival.
It's a really, really prestigious event. I have seen major Oscar-winning filmmakers who are overawed by the Cannes red carpet. It is such an event. I mean, first of all, it's, 50 feet wide? And you assemble your talent group at the bottom of the stairs and you all walk up together. And then you turn at the top and see the crowds. It's really quite an event for a filmmaker, I think. So that is not something that anybody takes lightly or dismisses. That's not like any other premiere you ever go to. Of course, the problem you have in terms of the PR of it is that they're every day for 14 days. So you're kind of churning through white noise and you need to make it your moment.
The red carpet in particular is a lot of fun to be on with Quentin Tarantino. He loves to select what music he's going to walk down the carpet to. He loves to dance on the carpet. He comes alive on the carpet, and the enthusiasm of the fans and the reporters is infectious. What a wonderful place to celebrate cinema.
There's an excitement and buzz about it, especially going up the red carpet. I mean, you have to feel it. It's powerful. The crowds are enthusiastic, and there's a love of cinema here. You feel it. The paparazzi, even them, they know who you are, they want you. I think it's a very heady experience, especially if you're a young person and it happens to you, and a lot of them are.
When I came here for the first time and I did the red carpet, it was just incredible to be able to have that exposure. And I think what's beautiful about this festival, it celebrates a craft, it celebrates a profession. It's not because we like to have our ego massaged, but it's really because it's a confirmation that what you do is important, you know.
C'est un lieu de rencontre, c'est un lieu de médias, c'est un lieu important parce qu'il y a un foisonnement pendant un temps et les gens partent avec des informations, c'est des films qui vont aller dans tel pays, dans tel autre, donc ça ne veut rien dire sur le superficiel. Il y a une image parce qu'on doit porter, donc qu'on se fasse, prenne du temps pour maquillage, coiffure et tout, ça fait partie, disons, des choses, mais c'est pour servir autre chose et c'est un calvaire de devoir se montrer à je ne sais pas combien de photographes. Et à la fois, il y a une excitation parce que d'être là, d'être invité de places honorifiques et de chance inouïe.
I feel a sense of real privilege because there's something about the way that Thierry particularly hosts this party. And I have to say that warmth I feel more and more strongly, particularly since people started talking nonsense about big cinema being threatened. I mean, Cannes is our beacon in so many ways, and it dignifies cinema. and everyone is welcome here. And of course, from the very beginning, that was so.
The birth of Cannes was about the idea of being together and how cinema can reflect the fight of the people in the world. And I think that now, in this very changing world, film festivals have a great future, because film festival Cannes is also about friendship, about love, about coming from all over the world to meet friends, to have good dinners, and of course parties. And so Cannes is really the addition of all these things to express our love for cinema. And this is unforgettable, irreplaceable.